in relation to like what I'm doing and what I've done with my Instagram, where a whole bunch of my Instagram, the reason my Instagram blew up was due to me kind of focusing on these kind of like taboo stories that involved consciousness, that involved aliens and
Mhm.
like the mind and stuff I found very fascinating. What happened recently is that I've not had the same energy to produce those same videos.
Mhm.
Instead, I want to focus more on kind of getting that audience to the podcast because I feel like there are such deeper and more meaningful conversations that are occurring in this podcast space than those conversations around, okay, whether or not this ball is from Mars or if this guy actually teleported to a different dimension. And I find it fascinating because, to wrap this back, is like the videos that I'm putting out now in relation to the podcast aren't getting as many views. And I can tell that my follower number is even dropping a little bit because of it. So there's a trap in there, which is staying that same person you were because the social landscape has been pushing you that direction. Oh, cool. I'm going to get the validation
Mhm.
of these videos. I'm going to get validated on creating these
Mhm.
weird things. I'm not going to get validated if I create something that's more true to who I am. And I think that has been a very powerful shift I've been looking at recently. It's like, fuck it.
Wow.
Fuck it. These
Yeah.
people don't want to follow it because this is the true core essence of reality as I see it, or information that will truly take their life to the next level. Then do I really want them to be a follower? Do I really want this friend in my friend group if they're not going to be open-minded to these new ideas that I'm coming across?
Mhm.
And it's a tough thing to sit with.
Yeah, very much so. Especially as it starts to get into like financial means too, you start sacrificing like your sources of income, you start sacrificing your validation of yourself, like, oh, I thought myself this person who had so many followers, or this person who was able to get all this interest, and now I'm changing and people are not vibing with it in the same way. And yet I bet, and tell me if I'm wrong, there's been some surplus. There's been some people now coming and resonating with things that weren't before. And maybe you don't know that yet. But that will shortly happen.
I've seen a mixture of comments in regards to, yeah, they're still followers. And I've seen a
Mm.
mixture of comments in regards to, oh, this is really wise. And then the other ones, which is like, don't interpret the Jesus and da 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 da. And I'm fucking mad. And I think that that's probably just
How dare you have a perspective on
yeah,
something?
you don't get to think about Jesus.
Yeah.
He is perfect. You are not. Damn you to hell. Yeah, but I don't think I've fully seen it yet, but I do, but I don't think it matters. I think the stronger position to look at it is, do I feel fulfilled in creating the
Mm.
content? Is this content that I want to be out there? And even more so, is it aligned with my mission?
Mm-hmm.
My mission is to have a really big podcast. My mission is to have more people listening to the podcast than anything else. I would trade every follower I have on every platform for that to be just the downloads I get on the podcast. Because these conversations, and I'm getting better, I'm by no means perfect when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to this podcast, but I do know that but these conversations, in my opinion, are the most important thing for people to have, or like the information to digest, or ideas to explore at the very least. And so if I'm not putting out content that's directing people to this podcast, then I'm failing my biggest mission. So my option is to keep putting out content that's going to bump my Instagram followers up. Or I could step aside, put that ego away, put away that materialistic identity that I have with the followers, and say, fuck it. I might lose. What if I lose 100,000? Fine. I'll have 20,000 left that are actually here for the resonant message that I'm trying to get out there with the podcast. Yeah, this was a great doorway to get people in the door, but if it's not for them, then okay, maybe they'll come back later.
That's so powerful. What was there any catalyst that like you're aware of that created that change within you when you started to feel that intuitive sense of speaking about things that aligned to your values and aligned to like that feeling of fulfillment within you?
I I guess it's interesting because I was very happy, and I enjoyed making the videos that I was making in regards to like these off the wall stories. I enjoyed doing it when I was doing it. I think something that kind of started getting into me was the community that it was creating was a little bit more divisive. It was a little bit more argumentative, people who are a little bit more lost in the world, which is okay. I mean, I'm happy for them to come in. But I think that there was just an element that I realized it wasn't serving the bigger mission. You know, it was serving a smaller mission of growing the Instagram account, but it wasn't serving that bigger mission of growing the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I realized, like, why aren't I have 120,000 followers? Why are my downloads not that high?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, there's a little bit of a disjointed
Mm-hmm.
nature between the podcast and the Instagram. It's like, oh, so maybe I should alter that a little bit. And then you post that one video and it only gets a couple thousand views and you're like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not getting validated from this.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do it if I'm not getting validated? And then that's whenever it comes to that introspection of, oh, are you really just doing this for validation?
Mm-hmm. So that feeling of like the resistance, like, oh shoot, should I go back to what I was doing? Recognizing that before it took the wheel, and you changed essentially back to receive that validation. There was a moment of introspection that you became aware of.
Yeah, it's asking yourself, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this thing? Yeah, realizing that it's what is it in me that wants this to be done? Like, why am I taking this action? Another example of this, I talked about this. Did I talk about my last podcast? No, I talked about it in Odyssey number 84 with Caroline Gutierrez, where I was telling her about me doing this introspective work in regards to the podcast. And I listened back to one of my podcasts and I'm sitting there listening to myself and I'm thinking, dude, Clayton, shut up. Like thinking, just shut up. Just, you asked the question, all of this next 30 seconds of rambling, stop. And I sat there for so long. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I just rambling on? And what I came to realize, there's a physical and a metaphysical answer to this. What I was doing was not thinking that I was being heard. I didn't think what I was saying was being heard. And an element of this is the fact that I didn't have myself in my ear like I do now. Like I couldn't hear myself. And another element I think was just like not being seen, or thinking that I wasn't able to provide value, or I wasn't valuable. So I was going on these like rambling monologues. I'd be like, you know, here's an example. I'd be like, Tyler, how'd you, you know, get to this place? Like, what's your, here's a good example of like what we were talking about earlier is like, oh, what's the difference between consciousness and awareness? Because like awareness is really weird because it's like kind of like this ability to like look at things, but then consciousness is kind of like, you know, our ability to connect to it. And then, you know, kind of there's like, so I'd go and just start answering the question. And then you're sitting there like, okay, yeah, you answered the question.
Yeah.
So there is no space for you to talk. And I realized that that whole conundrum was linked to wanting to be heard. It's like, dude, you got a mic in front of your face. They're going to hear you.
Yeah. So now you feel like you are heard and you're able to create space.
Yeah, I did some meditation around it. I, you know, kind of hyped myself up a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I am valuable. There's value I have to give.
Ain't fucking men.
Yeah. And so then it snowballed into me realizing, like, going back to the bigger mission. This is actually a good parallel. I didn't realize this. Of why am I doing this? Why do I have Tyler Being sitting right in front of me talking to him? It's to understand his perspective of reality. It's to learn from him. It's to challenge ideas that I feel like I already know the answer to. So if I'm asking a question and then answering it, I've just set you up with everything that I believe. So why would you even attempt to deviate? Because I'm hosting a podcast. You don't want to, you know, ruffle feathers and make, you know, a mess. But why not just actually sit here, ask you a question, and hear what your thoughts are? Because then I get to update my perspective on the entire thing. Like I just did. If I would have given you the entire answer, I don't think I would have heard you talking about, you know, your consciousness dips into awareness and brings it out. Like that's a gold nugget right there that I would have not only robbed myself of, but also robbed the audience as well.
Yeah. And that's not an original like thought, by the way. I don't even know if I have any original thoughts, but that comes from
it's all good.
Say it again.
Patanjali.
That comes from Patanjali. Yeah. And then of course, like it marinates inside of you, and then how I express it is different than Patanjali expressed it in his book, and likely significantly different than he expressed it in his life. But that's how it's resonated for me. You know, that's how it's felt when I've gone as deep as possible in meditation.
Well, it's good you do that too, because I mean, you're a Westerner trying to articulate an Eastern idea from thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
Shit changes,
absolutely.
and it's going to hit people different than if they would have went and read Patanjali. If they want to go know more, you know, it's good to know that that exists. But I mean, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is wonderful introspection, though, that you have like gained on yourself. That has been so important in my life. You know, I always say like within the last couple of years, but it's probably been happening for quite a long time, of just like trying to recognize when I need to shut the fuck up, like when I'm just like talking out of my ass, and when I'm saying something or asking something that actually aligns to something within me that I care about. And I've gotten pretty good at just shutting up and embracing silence. And so, like, often in day to day, I'm pretty quiet because I just like to listen. And I'll insert myself if I feel like I want to, but oftentimes I'll just listen and, you know, let a conversation ride until someone asks me something, or until I feel like I actually have something to say, so that I'm not just saying words to be a part of it, or to like, so that I don't feel like I'm missing out. And, you know, again, everything's so fucking nuanced. I don't want to be silent for safety. You know, I'm not trying to not be heard. I am both the program and the programmer. And so there's a big part of it that I have to put myself out there to create the world that I want to live in. But creating that world I want to live in involves not speaking out of my ass and not saying things that I don't think are true, or making sure I'm not saying things that make me feel weak.
And that's a big one too. Not feeling weak.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing things that make you feel weak.
And that's where the introspection comes in, because sometimes you'll just do it, and then you realize you feel weak from something that you've done or something that you've said. And okay, well, it's already out there. You know, there might not be takesy backsies. Maybe you can apologize or something, like, or at least apologize to yourself and forgive yourself. And that's where it really matters. You know, someone else might not need to forgive you, or might not accept an apology, but you can certainly forgive yourself and then become someone different, you know, 5 minutes from now. And, you know, if you've determined that you've said something or done something, taken some action that makes you feel lesser, that makes you feel weaker, that makes you feel smaller, you know, all of these words trying to arrive at some feeling within you, that you need to have the introspection, that you need to have the awareness to recognize within you. And when you feel that, then you can learn from it. You know, it's a signal, and you can choose different next time.
A big phrase that's coming to mind right now, because I've been noticing this so much recently in my life, is when people say sorry, but they didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong. Or on purpose, right? Like, I'm sorry is like, I did something and it actively hurt you, or like impeded you or something. But like, if you're trying to move by somebody, it's like, excuse me. You know, it's not, I'm sorry. It's almost like this, I'm sorry for existing type thing. And I've noticed this a lot recently, just so much. And I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know why, but, and maybe it's something I'm saying right now so that people can actively pay attention to when they're actually saying sorry in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thing to get away from.
It is.
And especially like if you're, I've even noticed like reaching out to people, or I don't know, like,
sorry to bug you.
Yeah. Or if something messed up, if I made a mistake, it's like, you know, there's times to apologize and actually say sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also times to thank the other person for awareness into your life. Oh, thanks for helping me out. Not like sorry to be a nuisance. It's like, thanks for helping me. And even just that mental shift, talking about perspectives.
Yeah, because you said it so well. Sorry for existing. Ugh. Ugh.
All right.
It's so fucking deep, but that's what it is. Sometimes I feel it in myself. I see it in others. It makes you cringe. You know, this like, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
That's it
Oh,
right
sorry
there.
for sorry. You know, I like playfully, but kind of cuttingly sometimes be like, well, straight up tell people, because I'm still working on it myself very much, you know, don't say sorry unless you've done something wrong, you know, and right away people will say, oh, sorry. And then
Yeah.
you got to laugh at them and be like, hey,
You kind of did it on the way here. You kind of did it whenever you texted me. You were like, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
gonna be about 20 minutes
uh-huh.
late." I was getting my daughter ice cream.
Oh, that was my wife.
That was your wife.
Yeah,
Oh,
but she's pregnant, so she deserves ice cream.
yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah.
But see, like you were like, "Okay, sorry, my wife wanted ice cream." I was like, "Don't apologize for being like a good
Mm-hmm.
husband."
Thank you for that. I do still stand by that apology because I don't like to be late, and I still ended up being here pretty much on time, but I was hoping to come in here a little bit earlier and settle in with you and such. It's all worked out just fine, but you know,
Yeah.
I stand by that apology because I try to be on time
Okay.
as best as possible.
I guess, and that gets in that nuance that we're talking about here, right? It's
Yeah,
like, where's the nuance of like an emergency actually did pop up and I need to apologize versus like,
yeah. It's almost like I made a choice that I knew would make me not uh, as present at the time that I wanted to be present. Um, and so I could either
break
do
that
that.
down.
I made a choice that basically made me late for the time that I wanted to be here. I knowingly made a choice. And I have a little bit of, I don't want to do that from a place of like confidence, like this is just who I am. I'm just gonna like do this. And so I just felt compelled to like let you know that that's not how I want to conduct myself. And so I apologize for conducting myself like that right now. And that's not how I would want to conduct myself as I go forward. Um,
I guess I'm trying to look at it though in terms of like the bigger picture. Like I get what you're saying at like that
mm,
level of, I don't want to be late. But in that moment, there was either something that occurred, something happened off text
mm,
where it became a higher priority for you to treat your wife to ice cream versus being, let's say, on time.
mm.
Right? So how do you feel like that like how is it a hierarchical thing? Like what, like how do you see that it's worth or empowering even that I take care of, that I treat my wife to ice cream and be a little bit late and apologize for being late versus I guess saying no to your wife, like I have a commitment at this time.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, yeah. And I actually really appreciate like the pushback on it because it's not a perfect answer. And it's very possible that I might feel differently about it like a few days from now after, if I even like care to let myself really think about it, because it's an interesting like little microcosm of life to like analyze, if you will. Um
That's what I'm all about though.
yeah,
I like
for
to
sure.
analyze
It's
little
beautiful
things.
to like dive into little, micro glimpses of life because often they contain, what's happening at a greater level. Um, so yeah, um, I- just playing situations as they are, trying to be as present as possible. And so here I am after like going out for a little breakfast slash brunch, and kind of looking at the time and being like, well, we could hustle to the car right now. Or she said she wanted to go get ice cream. We could walk down the block slowly because she's very large right now and beautiful and amazing. And we could get ice cream. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm in that presence, and that's how I want to be. And so that's what I chose to do.
All right. Well, then I'll accept your apology.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. If anyone that knows me too will know that I'm not a very good texter, and I I have since, for the most part, stopped apologizing for that. But a big part of that is like, and I have a great friend who's helped me figure out how to put messages back on unread, and that's a game changer. Uh, but often it's because when I'm with someone, which is a lot, I end up being around people quite a lot. I'm trying to make myself be as present as possible with that person because that's how I want to conduct myself. And so if I get a text message, maybe it distracts me for a moment and I look at it, which is a poor habit that I'm trying to break. It'd be better if I just didn't look at it at all. But I'll look at it and then immediately put it down and not even get to think about it. But now it's been read, or, read digitally, like it's been opened. But
Maybe you need to put the reader seats back on.
so that's what I've started doing.
Okay.
And this is very recent, by the way. This is like this week. Yeah. Shout out Eric.
That's too funny. Shout out Eric at Topa Club. uh, yeah. So, dude, your wife's almost pregnant again.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
no,
Any
she's
day
not
now.
almost pregnant.
No.
She's
Yeah.
almost due.
Any day now. Yeah. A little boy will be here.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's it's a
That
lot.
part too, huh?
Yeah. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of nervousness. Mostly excitement.
It's interesting. I don't have kids, and I'm
Mhm.
interested from this viewpoint, right? Like, you're a rather conscious, aware individual. Do you ever take a step back and look at maybe parallels between like the way you were brought up and the way you're raising your kids now as to how to increase their levels of awareness and consciousness?
100%. Yeah. I don't want to I try not to overanalyze my parents, because analysis typically isn't. You typically aren't analyzing something and being like, man, that was so great. And my parents were great. My parents are great. I had a wonderful childhood. But there are definitely elements within my life and within my upbringing that I want to make sure that I am more cautious of with my children, in the sense of like just having some harder conversations with them, having just a much more open dialogue, a much more trusting communication. Um, everything from like just making sure that they know always that they can tell me anything, and that even if, it'll be iterative, even if I have not the reaction they're hoping for right away, that I'll be able to come back to them and just be open to listen to them and to offer the best advice that I can possibly muster from my own experience, which might not be perfect, but, can at least help them navigate a rather insane world. I hope to instill some things that my parents really did really well, giving me such a love and appreciation for the beauty of nature, and spending time outside and being a physical being, and really caring about physical freedom and my ability to move and move well and feel good, and navigate pain well. However, at the same time, I don't want to immediately give them pain medication. My parents didn't know. They don't know. We were all living in a toxic soup, and oftentimes we're not aware of the ingredients in that soup, because we're just in it. And so seeking pain medication as soon as something is off isn't the right move, in my opinion. I think that's the right opinion. Whereas that's what, they did for me. And thank God for pain medication at the same time. Excuse me.
Podcast wouldn't be complete without a cough, so thank you for breaking that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope to be able to help them manage pain and manage, even mental anguish, without immediately looking for medication, without looking for, quote, daddy, government, pharma, big medicine, to come and rescue them so that they can start to learn the power within themselves. That's going to be uncomfortable because, seeing your kiddo sick sucks. It's the worst feeling. It's the most beautiful thing when they are thriving, and, when Sophia is bubbly and she's trotting through the living room with a big smile on her face. And then it's just the worst feeling in the world when she is not feeling well, or, because you don't know the extent of it. There's always just this background fear of what if they die, and it's my fault, or not even that matters if it's your fault, but just what if this immense love is taken from me? And you got to be careful not to dive too far into that, because it'll make you go crazy. But yeah, and I think a lot about what my parents did or didn't do, and try to rectify that, or try to just choose the optimal path. And I know that I'm gonna fuck up. I'm for sure gonna fuck them up. I'm a weird person. They're gonna be fucked up as a result of that, and some of the things that I say, and they're gonna say some crazy shit, I'm sure, to their classmates. That's gonna get them in trouble too. But whatever.
Well, because what you're describing there, it sounds like the if we're going back to mythology and
Mm.
mythos or ethos, would be of that over like the what is it? The over nurturing mother, the
Oh yeah, the edible mother.
edible mother. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Because it sounds like you're trying to navigate that balance of how much nurturing and comfort versus like, oh, well, this is the real world. You got to go figure it out.
Mm.
How do you actively view that balance, or do you kind of just more naturally just go with whatever feels right?
Um, I guess it's a little bit of both. I definitely feel it. I'm definitely aware of times where I'm like, no, like you need to be safe right now, uh, and I catch myself maybe being a little too cautious. It's kind of easy at times because my wife and my mother-in-law are very cautious. It'll be like 65 degrees out, and they're like putting a big coat on Sophia, and I'm like, all right, no, like I'm gonna take that off as soon as I get outside with her.
Right.
We're like making her wear shoes, to be in the grass. And as soon as we get outside, I just take her shoes and socks off, so she can walk around and like be grounded to the earth and like feel the feels, things like that. Or like pushing her when we're at gymnastics, or pushing her when we're in a playground for her to like kind of fuck up, like fall even a little bit and figure things out, or like really have to strain to like get up on something instead of just picking her up and putting her on it. Um, So I'm definitely very cautious about it. I call myself the anti-aircraft parent.
The
Uh,
anti-aircraft.
yeah, to get rid of the helicopter parent that
Uh,
is nearby.
the ones that's always circling.
Yeah.
Because there's an interesting parallel in there with you were talking about how whenever you would see them doing something dangerous and it would get you to like kind of that fight or flight mode,
Mm.
you tense up a little bit. And I see the parallel there when we were talking about like the ice baths and doing
Mm.
stuff that are difficult and facing these challenges. So is there that element then of like you kind of just got to let them fuck up, you got to let them
Mm.
scratch themselves in order for them to figure it out?
Mm. And I don't want her to fall and get hurt and scratch herself, but yeah, I have to also let that happen. Um, and it's you play each situation as best you can while you're in it. If she's walking on a wall and it's like a foot off the ground, maybe I let it go and I don't hold her hand. And I'm like, you got this. And I tell her you can do this on your own. Um, and at some point, that's gonna be a mistake. She's gonna fall and I'm gonna be like, oh no, why wasn't I there? And then it's another when she's on like a 6 foot wall. Okay, then maybe I'm a lot closer because while I want her to challenge herself and to feel these feels of like fear, especially if she loses her balance a little bit, I don't want her to fall and get catastrophically hurt, obviously. So yeah, just always like playing that situation as best you can, trusting your intuition as best you can. Um, just to give a funny example, like when I was a little bit younger, before I had kids, I was in Glacier National Park, and we were going up a road called to get to Logan Pass. It's like at the top of the mountain, and everyone had to pull over for some reason. There was like a blockage in the road, and so we all pulled over, a huge line of cars, and this mountain goat, this beautiful white mountain goat, like 6-inch horns, comes walking up, and it was pretty chill. It came really close to us, and this woman comes running over with this little boy, and puts that little boy right in front of the goat
Oh no.
to like take a picture, and I'm right there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do in this situation because this woman is a fucking idiot. Like, and I ended up not doing anything, and it ended up like being totally fine. But it's just like, man, there was no forethought there. Like, it would take nothing for that goat to just be like, why is this thing in my space? And to give just like a quick hit that could have changed that child's life. Um,
This is why Darwin was wrong.
so yeah, you think about, I don't know, just that example just came up because I think about like, oh yeah, well, I want to take cool pictures of Sophia. I want her to get exposed to things, even to other beings, other creatures, but uh, you also need to be cautious, because you don't know what something else's intention is. You don't know how something else might react.
Not
Yeah.
sure what that level of danger is, perceived
Mm-hmm,
threat. She
mm-hmm.
doesn't know.
It's just a challenging like landscape of living. Yeah.
You gonna get her to top club anytime soon?
Oh God, someday. Yeah. I think the boy much sooner,
Right
even though
on.
he'll be much younger. I think Olia, my wife, will be a lot more accepting of me like pushing the boy into more dangerous things quicker. Um, you know,
Are
but
you assuming his gender already?
oh, very much so. Yeah, I'm very much assuming his gender. He's a little boy. He's got a little penis. It's gonna be an uncircumcised or just a normal penis.
How do you
Um,
arrive at that conclusion? Dude, I've done no research into circumcision whatsoever. How did you come to that conclusion, or like what
you just
information?
kind of take a step back. It's so nice to be able to take a step back. Like now that I've been able to regulate my nervous system better, it's easier to take a metaphorical step back in life and just look at something from outside of myself. And like, I don't know, there just seems like not a great idea to cut off a part of the human body. Um, that doesn't seem like a good move. I think we probably come equipped correct for the most part. I'm sure there's abnormalities, right? But for the most part, we come equipped correctly, and just like doing a little bit of research beyond the typical like bullshit that comes up on the first 3 pages of Google, uh, you come to discover that that's like the most sensitive part of a penis. And like, man, what could my the quality how much better could the quality of my life be if I still had the most sensitive parts of my penis? You know, like how much better would sex be? How much better would like my life just have been? Uh,
Do you think what is it that makes you think that it would have increased your quality of life?
I think sex would have been better.
You think sex would have been better?
Would be better, yeah.
Would be better, more intense?
Yeah, just feel better. Um, yeah, and there are things that I have no idea. You know, probably like deep level trauma, if you will, at like some cellular level from having something removed, or you know, losing that sensitivity. Who knows how that impacts like the flow of energy and blood, you know, down through there.
I wonder if they've done any
Um,
studies.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna do a
Um,
quick Google search.
but it just seems, and I'm sure people can make convincing arguments towards the other direction. You know, the often like cited one is like, well, there's a risk of an infection if you don't get it. Like it's harder to clean or something. It's like, is that just because people thought it was weird to like touch a penis and clean it? Because that seems pretty normal. You know, you touch a butthole and clean it. You touch everything and clean it. It's a baby, you know, and then you teach them as they get older. Um,
Which is a pretty normal thing, right?
yeah.
This is like a little bit of effort that needs to get put on. What to know about circumcised and uncircumcised penis? Circumcision is a surgical procedure that removes the foreskin of the penis. Differences between you want to know something kind of embarrassing?
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about how bad our sexual education is in this world, in this country?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually know what circumcision was until I was a sophomore in college.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea if I was circumcised or not,
Mm-hmm.
and I am, and I always thought that circumcision was like kind of shaving the tip of the head off.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that there was like foreskin.
Mm-hmm.
So when they said foreskin, I was thinking like the tip of the head.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy fuck, did that happen to me? Like, I have no idea. And then I figured out in college, and I was like, all right, that's a little bit better. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, at least I didn't get that crazy. But, you know, to your point, I was like, oh shit, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Probably similar, by the way. I didn't come equipped at a young age knowing these things. I don't remember when I learned like about that. I know I didn't know what even like a normal penis is supposed to look like for a long time.
What is a
Uh,
normal penis?
a penis that still has foreskin to me,
Oh,
you know,
oh, okay, I got you.
unlike
I
a
got you.
circumcised
I
penis.
got you.
You know, we say this word uncircumcised as if like there's circumcised and there's uncircumcised, but it's like no, there's circumcised, and then there's how it comes from nature.
God ready.
You know,
It's an
like it's
interesting
not
point.
uncircumcised. That's language corrupting your perspective.
Hmm.
It's just
It's
a normal
another way.
dick. Uh,
The ready-made package.
yeah, it's the ready-made package.
Let's see here. Yeah, people may have circumcision for many different reasons, including religious reasons. People who follow
I want my son's dick to look like my dick. Can't be different.
the Jewish or Muslim faith, cultural reasons, a family history of circumcision. Yeah, right there. You just said it. So a person may decide to continue the tradition, personal preference,
Traditions.
for health reasons. It says this is medical news today, so I don't know if they're bought or paid for or anything. One 2016 study estimated that 37 to 39% of males across the world have a circumcision. The researchers estimated that 71.2% of males in the United States have circumcision. That's a high percentage, so that's well above average in the entire world. The areas of the world, according to American Urological Association, with the highest rates of circumcision are the Middle East, South Korea, and the United States. The lowest rates are in Europe, Latin America, and most of Asia. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, I'm not even going to read it because I think their trust level has dropped to an all-time low. Appearance, yeah, we just went on that. Effects on sex. Scientific studies have produced conflicting reports on the effect of circumcision on sex. That's interesting. For example, one 2013 study looked at the sexual sensations of 1,059 uncircumcised normal males and 310 circumcised males. That seems weird that would have such a different... That's not...
Yeah, science is hard.
Yeah. Can't we get... If there's more circumcised than normal... Wouldn't they be able to find 1,000? Why wouldn't you have a similar circumcised against uncircumcised groups?
Maybe the data didn't give them what they wanted. I don't know. I don't know who funded the study or what it was about. Dude. You never know. There's good science out there, by the way. I'm pretty critical right now. I'm super skeptical of most things. But there really is good science out there. I've worked with some good scientists. At least I think so. Through my grad school. I think these people were very diligent and were really trying to arrive at objective truth through like measurement and data collection. I think it just gets convoluted and fucking bonkers
once who's funding it.
Once you start arriving at like the funding or who's like if it gets published, or what part of it gets published.
What does the title say of the article versus what the study actually said? Are you interpreting the results correctly? Are they incorrect?
Yeah.
There's a lot of call. So what did you know? Because this was something that came up the other day at Tub Club. Is that who introduced you? Eric, I think, did. And he was saying something about how you have a graduate degree. I was like, he has a graduate degree? I was like, where'd that come from?
Yeah. And it's just a master's of science. I don't know. School has come relatively easy, so maybe I don't give myself enough credit sometimes. But after I changed career path, I knew that I really wanted to go back and study something.
Wait, what were you before this?
Well, originally, I went to school to be a mechanical engineer, and I graduated in 2012, and I worked for a big consulting company in the energy space for about 9 years. And it just was like crushing my soul. It was like stealing my soul from me slowly, and I saw what it would take to progress in this organization. It would be to sacrifice more and more of my soul, both to connect with people that I didn't want to connect with and to learn things that I didn't want to learn, and probably eventually to make, if you really get to the higher ends of it, to make moral decisions that wouldn't be in line with, what my innermost being values. And the company does really great things through the world and also really terrible things through the world. I'm very critical of them for some of the modeling that they do, long-term modeling, like related to the climate, for example. This essentially shows like, no, we need to sacrifice millions of poor people so that we can save the planet. Like, all right.
Ooh.
Okay, that sounds like a really like just thing. Yeah, that's really diversity, equity, and inclusive of you. Let's let the poor people die as we raise energy costs, as we move towards greening our energy. And it's like you just learn more and more as you go. But anyways, that's a big aside we could get into if you wanted to. Ultimately left that career path and took some time. Thank God for my amazing wife giving me that opportunity. And it was a long time coming. It was a conversation we had even when we first got together, but like it was a lot different when it actually happened. The hardship of like having then a single income, and her kind of carrying me for a little while, a little longer than a little while. She really was amazing in that way. And I got to go back to school and study health. And it was right as fucking COVID started. Great. So it was a subpar education in my opinion, but I made myself read a lot, extracurricular. I made myself study a lot, and then ended up getting into like the autonomic nervous system and understanding the dysregulation that you see across society, people unable to manage their stress, the like mental health crisis that we're currently facing that is largely tied into the physical health crisis that we're currently facing. And so, yeah, I got a master's of science in health education, and a part of that was writing a thesis, a very long paper, and running a legit, like IRB approved study investigating a hummed exhale, and specifically, actually, not just the hummed exhale, but comparing a hummed exhale to what we know to be a powerful modality, which is just slower breathing.
What is a hummed exhale?
A hummed exhale,
Yeah.
so just simply like a breathe in. And so you can create a hum, you can create a vibration inside of your body, which is very similar to maybe a yogic But my purpose for investigating the hum rather than a yogic om was to see if something could be maybe more practical, something that could be useful for just any person to better manage their lives. And now I'm pretty much convinced that it is. And I use it quite a lot for myself, and I encourage a lot of other people to use it, whether they be sitting in my ice water or whether they be just going about their daily life. Pretty much anytime I'm about to get up and speak in front of people, put on a class, presentation, go to an interview, come and be on a podcast, get in the ice water, I am centering myself with some hums, and they vary from very like low and quiet if I'm really nervous or if I don't want to like raise attention to me, to if I'm in my car, kind of loud. And yeah, there seems to be a lot of good data. I did a whole literature review on it. And what it seems to show is that it improves a metric known as heart rate variability. And that's also what I found in my own study. Heart rate variability is essentially a measure of your heart's ability to respond to stress optimally. So if a stimulus occurs, is your heart optimally responding, or is it like all out of whack? Can you relax once relaxation is possible? Can you rev yourself up when revving yourself up is necessary? And is that process smooth and healthy, or is it dysregulated? And then a few other things. I measured anxiety. I actually measured perceived anxiety with just like a fairly easy scale, and it seemed to reduce anxiety as well.
Wow. And this is all just from humming? Do you do it through, you do it, it sounds like you only do it before certain events, or do you actually do it throughout your day?
I do it throughout my day if I think about it. But yeah, oftentimes I think about it when you're feeling that like anticipation or a little bit of anxiousness or a little bit of like whatever, if you just want to center yourself.
What are the biomechanical, I don't even know if that's the right word, but like the actions that are occurring that are making this increase your heart rate variability and other things in your body?
Yeah. I don't know it perfectly, so there's probably much more to be said. But what it seems to be doing is stimulating your vagus nerve. So you have a series of nerves through your body. Your vagus nerve is one of them, and it's highly related to your relaxation response. So when your vagus nerve is activated, you are becoming more relaxed. Your heart rate is slowing down. Your breath is typically slowing down, and you're entering a more calm and centered state where you're able to connect both with yourself and with others. And so when you're like in that fight or flight reaction, everything sort of shuts down inside of you because it's a survival response. You're on edge. You're really aware. You're kind of hyper aware. It's very difficult to connect with another person. It's very difficult to connect with your own intuition when you're in that aroused or stressed or fight or flight feeling. And there's levels to this. There's like a full-fledged, like there's a fucking tiger running at you, or like just sitting in traffic and not feeling good because you're on your way to work, or, you know, someone just cut you off, or like you read something online that you disagreed with, you know. And like in our modern society, we have so much stimulus. You know, we're living in this hyper novel world. So many things are being consumed and taken in, and a lot of them are stress inducing. If you're not careful, you will interpret them as stressful, and you see someone disagree with you online or a perspective you don't like, and like you might interpret that as like a threat to your existence at some level. And so if you're not careful, you're kind of living in this low level fight or flight response throughout your day, and not really relaxing in the way that you should be able to relax, which is when you relax, you're conserving energy. That energy can then be used for many other processes throughout your body, or just energy to have in your day-to-day life, you know, to go get like a good workout in, or to feel good, or to be like awake and aware for your family or yourself. And so the more often that you can bring yourself into that relaxed state, that natural resting state, the better, basically. And then you have that reserve of energy for when you actually need it.
It's reminding me it's reminding me of what we were talking about earlier in regards to people being able to live longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, you're definitely cutting your lifespan short by living in a chronically stressed state. Oh, significantly short. I mean, your all-cause mortality is way up. Yeah.
that's
Sorry, I
crazy.
cut you
No,
off.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
you're good. Keep going if you got more to say on
No, no, I digress. Yeah.
it. No, it was just that was exactly the parallel that I was seeing there, which is crazy. And so it sounds like you're saying that one of these ways to activate, this is so funny
Mm-hmm.
saying, to like activate calmness, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're calm induced, you know, it makes it's like an active calming.
it is.
Yeah. So is this like, this is, are there, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways, but this is a very powerful way to
Mm-hmm.
activate calmness.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
That's right. There are many ways. It is an active process to become relaxed. You know, like it's always so funny when people are like, "Just relax." Like, oh yeah, sure. Let me just
have you
relax.
ever tried to relax?
Yeah.
It's a
Like,
fucking
have you ever
paradox.
told your girl or your partner to relax? Has it worked? Like, calm down. I'm helping.
You're freaking out right now. Relax.
Like,
Go fuck yourself.
yeah, like no, it's an active thing. So you can activate a part of yourself to help you relax. I actually like came to this in a weird way where through my life I dealt with a lot of social anxiety, and I actually didn't realize how much I craved socialization. I kind of skirt the line between introvert and extrovert, but I end up getting a lot from putting myself out there and connecting with people. But through my life, it was so weird because I would like be around friends and, you know, people I'd known for a while, and especially like if it was a group of them, and I would just feel so good, and like I'd be funny and like just easily like letting conversation flow, and things would all be good. And then there'd be like one-on-ones sometimes, even with like a good friend, and I'd feel this like inner like I don't know what to say, freezing up feeling. Um, and I didn't have words for that at the time. I didn't know what the difference was. And especially it became apparent, like, you know, as you're coming up and you're like trying to talk to women, or you're going out to bars and you're trying to talk to people, which is like fuck bars, by the way. Just as a quick aside, fuck bars. Fuck being in a place that's super loud that you can't talk to people when you're trying to make connections in the world. Stop doing that to yourself. Go find something you're interested in. Do that thing. Get good at it. You'll meet people. Anyways. Yeah.
We could drive
And
on that for a while.
so it would just be so weird because it'd be like, wow, I feel like two different people. You know, this one person who's unable to articulate himself and connect with others, and then a totally different person who like just feels really good to be. And that's why I started learning about like the autonomic nervous system, because that's ultimately what it was. It was like, I am more in a fight or flight, you know, it's more of a stressed out sympathetic state. And when you're like that, you're just like, you're on guard. You know, you're overthinking the next words coming out of your mouth. You're too hyper vigilant. You know, you're looking for any perceived threat or any like element of discomfort, and you're just living in that. Whereas the other, it's like, how it is right now. You're just feeling relaxed. You're laid back. Words are easy. You're not overthinking it. We're able to connect. Our hearts are in sync.
Yeah. I'm even thinking about the parallel between how if you had two different friends, and let's say friend A, you're always in that fight or flight mode, but then
Mm-hmm.
friend B, you're always calm and relaxed around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the friend A and friend B get together and they start talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to know two completely different people.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So, what? Getting back to the humming, you made a comment that it's different than Om, right? Like Om, is it? How did you find something that said it was different, or like what did you find there?
Well, I more just did it from the practical standpoint of like, if I was going to try to give something to people, like hum to save the world, like there's this underlying uh, theme of like, I want to create a movement of like humming to save the world, right? Uh, and I think I can get a lot more people on board with trying to simply just hum. It's a lot more accessible. There's a little bit less of a weirdness to it. Now, I love an om. I think it is a sacred word, and I think it is uh, beyond my comprehension, even. But my only purpose for going for the hum rather than the om was to make it a little bit more accessible, so that, you know, people who might not be open to letting out a few ohms would go for the hum. Because I think it's still arriving at a very similar mechanism, like physiological mechanism inside where you're creating that inner vibration.
Mm.
And the Om is very much doing that. And the Om actually probably is even more powerful because the three distinct sounds of the Om, the oh, it's very low. It's like in the gut. It's oh, it's getting more into the chest. It's like nearer to the heart. It's coming up into the bottom of the throat. And so it's like these energy centers within you that you're touching and running up this chain inside of you. This
I can feel that.
mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this in terms of like frequency, right? Because you were talking about how you could do this in different frequencies, right? Like you go, which is really low, and then if you go super high, like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, you're almost I can feel that hitting different spots in my body when
Mm-hmm.
I'm humming. Did you see any research on that, the different frequencies?
Not enough to have any like strong conclusions on, but I think you're really onto something there. Just from like self exploration, it's really interesting actually. Once it becomes less weird for you to do, you can like play around with the different tones and frequencies that you can create and how they kind of hit different places within you. I shared like a story at Tub Club the other night, but it was such a cool experience when I was on a kind of a date with my wife. We did a little staycation because our vacation got kind of ruined because she got really sick and she just wasn't a happy camper. I still had a nice time.
That's all that matters.
But I mean, it would have been a better time if she was feeling good.
Yeah.
But so we did a staycation and fucking get a headache and like never really get headaches anymore. Used to deal with like a lot of headaches, a lot of migraines for one reason or another. I'm not really sure. I'm so glad to be at a place in my health where I don't have that, but I'm starting to get a headache, and it was sinus related. I was like congested, and I just have enough. I could recognize that was the cause. That there was a pressure in my face that was creating a headache, and it's like, oh man, I want to have this great night with my wife, but here I am, like in pain, and so I was just about to go and buy like something, like an allergy reliever or something, and then I caught myself and I was like, I'm just seeking the easy solution. Like, what can I do? What can I try at least? How can I explore myself? And so I started to create that vibration inside this like, and I could bring it up and you can kind of direct where it goes and I could bring it up into my face. And after I did it for just like a short period of time, a few, handful of seconds in my face, the next like big, and I'm not going to make this sound that like, on the mic right here, but holy shit, had I loosened some stuff up by creating that vibration in my face. And so when I took that like, whatever you
kind
call
of like
that,
nasal
yeah,
congestion inhale.
I got a lot of stuff to come down into my throat, and I could get rid of it. I could spit it out. And so I just did it a few times, and lo and behold, the pressure diminished. And I was
Whoa.
like, whoa, that's cool. And then I didn't have a headache anymore. And I had a great dinner, and like, yeah, I had a great night. And I was like, fuck yeah, like, let's go.
I could just see you sitting at the dinner table there, just cheesing,
Yeah, yeah, you know.
high on cloud nine. Nobody understands why. Like, you can't explain that to people.
No, yeah, or like, what am I gonna say?
Yeah, what am I gonna say?
My wife thinks I'm a weirdo sometimes
And
because she's like, watching me do it.
yeah, babe, it fucking works.
Yeah, well, she knows, you know.
Well, and on top of that, you don't have all these crazy chemicals now floating around your body,
Mm-hmm.
doing
Mm-hmm.
clogging up other shit, blocking other stuff.
Yeah, everything's a trade-off.
Yeah.
You're in some pain, you take that Advil, and your liver's like, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for not caring. And the oxygen delivery to your cells also is like, what the fuck? Why are you doing that?
I can't do my job now.
Yeah.
You're blocking off other agents. People need to go do their job, and you're just saying no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something there with that Om, because like I've been seeing it as, and you just had the Tub Club that was like based around Om. So I think it's pretty cool that we're talking about this here.
It seems to align you to the frequency of the universe, the frequency of the world. Like if we are living in the mind of God, that is the word of God that is invisible but in the background of all things. And so if you are not tuned in, like how maybe a musical instrument can be out of tune, if you want to tune yourself in, the Om, and I'm sure several other like mantras are available to you to tune you back in and to get your frequencies at that cellular level, which impact the way that your cells are like working. It's impacting what they're perceiving as a threat and how they're operating, which ultimately influences how you feel at this greater level of being, of this human being. But really, we're just a collection of trillions of cells trying to do their best, and you can tune them in with something like an Om.
Well, and on top of that, there's trillions of cells are made up of billion or quadrillion, I don't know,
Yeah, fucking it's
atoms,
beyond.
numbers, big numbers. And all of those atoms are vibrating at some rate.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And on top of this, what's fascinating is you said the word of God, and I study a lot of Paramahansa Yogananda. Do you follow him?
I don't know.
Oh, you're not familiar with him?
Yeah, you're gonna turn me on to this. Yeah, please.
He's a beast. We'll talk about it. I think the audience has heard me, but I'm gonna pull up. Have you heard of Autobiography of a Yogi?
I can't say that I have.
Dude,
maybe I have.
This dude's a fucking beast. I've talked about him with Mitch before. Have you seen this book?
I have not.
That's not English, but that's basically it.
Okay.
Let me see if I find the English one. We'll put him up here for a little bit. Get him in the background here while we're talking about him. Dude's a beast. And he has these. He founded this like thing called Self-Realization Fellowship.
Okay.
And the basic premise of it is to like self-realize as God. Like here is and so what I've been doing the last 4 or 5 months, maybe 4 months, is he has these like lesson plans that he just mails to your house. It's like 18 lessons over the course of 9 months. And I think I'm on lesson 8 right now. And what it does is he actually breaks down like basically the way that he sees the spiritual world. And that book, first of all, start off with that book, Autobiography of a Yogi, because there's shit in there you're like, did this actually fucking happen? Like just shit of like I'm kind of getting down the wrong rabbit hole. Let's just leave it at crazy shit for now.
Okay.
Let's finish this thought. We can come back to it if we need to. But he does a lot of comparison with the Bible to the Bhagavad Gita, and then talks about it from like his perspective of his own self-realization journey. And he talks about the word of God, and every time it says the word, and so was the word, they're talking about Om. They're talking about that cosmic force that exists. It was like, because in Genesis, I think one of the very first things is like, and God said, or then the word of God is like one of the first things that happens.
Yeah.
And what that's alluding to is that cosmic vibration. They're talking about Om in a sense. So to kind of make this go full circle is like you're calling in the cosmic force of everything into your body to heal every cell of your body And on top of that, with this frequency we're talking about here, all the way to you're vibrating every cell of your body.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And these powers, like, and they are powers, are just out here to be learned and to be taken if you so choose.
And I hope that you're ready to choose those powers, because in the episode that we are releasing next, in part 3, we're going to talk about inner growth. We're going to talk about spiritual powers, divine potential, navigating life choices, sacrifices, sexual pleasure, and so much more. So join Tyler and I in part 3, Wisdom from Rishis for Personal Growth.